Welcome to my channel. This is a quick review of my favorite horror movies of 2025. Let's go! The Woman in the Yard is a dark, slow-burn psychological horror with strong thriller elements. The story centers on a grieving family living in a remote rural home whose fragile sense of normalcy is disrupted by the sudden presence of a mysterious woman sitting silently in their yard. As she comes ever closer, paranoia, guilt, and buried trauma begin to surface, blurring the line between supernatural threat and psychological breakdown. There are a lot of details pointing at hidden meanings. The ending is ambiguous and left me re-evaluating everything I thought the movie was about. This one is for those who like it bleak and oppressive, creeping dread rather than jump scares. Weapons is a blend of mystery, supernatural horror, thriller, and dark humor that reveals its story from multiple perspectives of hugely flawed characters, while using non-linear storytelling. Set in a small town shaken by the sudden disappearance of all the children from the same class except for one boy, the film follows parents, teachers, and locals as they struggle to understand what really happened. What begins as a missing persons case turns into something far more sinister, and the more we find out about what or who is responsible, the more the mystery turns into horror. This one will have you wondering what's going on for a long while. It also gives us a few great jump scares, some nice gore, suspense, and thrill, all while addressing problematic social issues. In Haller Road, two parents enter a race against time when they receive a distressing late-night phone call from their only daughter, Alice, after she caused a tragic car accident on an old, isolated forest road. What appears as a family drama at first turns into a frantic psychological thriller, with horror slowly creeping its way in. The tension and dread that are achieved here are through the roof, especially with the fact that the movie is almost entirely set in the car, while the parents are desperately trying to assist Alice on the phone. It is bleak, atmospheric, dialogue-heavy, nail-biting, and left me shocked and in emotional pieces after it ended. The Long Walk is a dystopian survival horror thriller based on a novel by Stephen King. Set in a near-future society, the film follows a group of teenage boys who willingly participate in an annual walking contest in hopes of getting a huge financial prize and one wish fulfilled. Slowing down or stopping means execution, and the walk ends when there's only one survivor left. We closely follow a few main protagonists who form a close bond of support and friendship under the brutal circumstances. As the march drags on and the group shrinks in number, physical exhaustion gives way to psychological collapse, revealing fear and desperation. This movie is relentless and emotionally draining, a grim meditation on military control, senseless spectacle, the illusion of choice, and how long the human spirit can endure before it breaks. Frankenstein is a gothic science fiction horror film that reimagines Mary Shelley's classic through an intimate and emotionally tragic lens. The story follows Victor Frankenstein's obsessive pursuit of conquering death and the catastrophic consequences that follow when life is treated as an experiment rather than a responsibility. The film is told from both Victor's and the creature's perspective. Guillermo del Toro's gorgeous, lush visual style is stamped all over the movie. But not only does it look stunning, it delivers palpable characters, a moving story, and a creature that is worthy of the classic tale. It is a poetic, philosophic cautionary tale of the results of greed, egotism, and obsession. Good Boy is a supernatural horror movie that unfolds almost entirely through the eyes of a devoted dog, Indy. The story follows Indy as he navigates life with his increasingly sick and unstable owner in an isolated home, where an unseen threat lurks in the shadows and puts his human companion in danger. Indy is the bestest boy and is trying to fight the malignant force as much as he can. But because the dog can't fully understand what's happening, the audience is locked into his confusion, forced to interpret events mostly through his sensations. This is a very creepy, innovative haunted house movie with one of the most endearing protagonists of 2025, and a real treasure for lovers of dogs and horror. Sinners is a visually stunning blend of supernatural horror, action, period drama, and a love of blues. When twin brothers return to their rural home in Mississippi in 1932, hoping to build a new life by opening a juke joint, they unknowingly attract an ancient evil on its opening night. Soon the party turns into a bloody battleground between the living and the undead. It takes its time with character building and introduces the horror action almost halfway, but what a payoff! Sinners is exciting, touching, and violent, with a fantastic main villain. Just make sure you stay all the way through the end credits. And I mean all the way. Together is a sci-fi body horror with lots of dark humor that turns the literal and emotional bonds of a long-term couple into something grotesque. Years into their relationship, Tim and Millie find themselves at a crossroads as they move to the country. On a forest walk, they encounter something unnatural that follows them back home and starts a change in both of them. They find themselves in surreal situations, which are fun as much as uncomfortable. The practical effects and the very emotional and physical performances definitely deserve praise. The movie has creepy, ominous, and genuinely disgusting moments, but stays overall uplifting and light-hearted rather than dark and serious. Bring Her Back is an intense and devastatingly sad supernatural horror from the directors of Talk to Me. The story begins when teen siblings Andy and his visually impaired stepsister Piper are placed in the care of a seemingly kind foster mother, Laura, after their dad's sudden death. But Laura has a hidden agenda. She watches occult videotapes, keeps a strange boy locked in a room, and takes particular interest in Piper. The events unfold in the most shocking ways, exposing you to merciless acts of violence, gruesome body horror, skin-crawling creepiness, and emotional exhaustion as you pray for the kids' lives. The dread and suspense factors are as high as can be, with zero jump scares. By the end, you'll want your plushie and a chocolate bar. The Ugly Stepsister is a Norwegian satirical body horror take on the classic Cinderella tale, set in a grim fairy tale-like world where beauty is everything. We follow Elvira as she moves to a castle of a nobleman with her mom and sister, hoping for financial stability. As they find out that he is broke, they turn to drastic measures to secure their future. Considered unattractive, Elvira undergoes a series of painful aesthetic procedures, training, humiliation, and questionable dietary choices to captivate the prince at the royal ball. Her gorgeous stepsister Agnes is an added unwelcome obstacle. This movie doesn't shy away from nudity, sexual content, mutilation, including an extremely sickening finale that I'm still traumatized by. Because of its boldness and original approach, this is my #1 movie of the year. What's yours? Tell me in the comments.